Yo everybody, my name is Lampymoth and today I'm going to be showing you how we're going to rig a Live2D model head. The X and Y movements and the Z movements. I hope you all enjoy. With that being said, let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is that we want to select everything that's attached to the head, all of those layers. Then we're going to go to this box that looks like a fishing net. We're going to click on that. You'll see that a box will pop up. We just need to go to the part that says name. We're just going to call that one head Y. Then we're going to select everything that is within that deformer. That's the green box. We're going to make another green box by selecting this fishing net. We're going to call this one head X. Now there's a very important reason why we're calling it that. Let's go back to head Y over here. Instead of using the warp deformer, again, the fishing net, we're actually going to go to this one. We're going to go to creating a rotation deformer. Now, this one's going to be different from the regular warp deformer, and you'll see why. Because when we click on this, you'll see the name. We're just going to call this one Head Z Circle. Now, we might want to move this red circle a bit, but before you do any of the moving, make sure that it's not attached to any of these parameters, which is little dials over here. So what we want to do is go to this red circle, and we want to hold the control key. We're going to move this little circle around a bit because this little circle is going to be here for is to allow us to rotate the head, tilt it left and right and all of that. And we want to make sure that it's as close to the center as possible when we're doing all of this, so it doesn't feel a little lopsided. We also want to make sure that it's in a proper place. When it comes to head rotation, it depends on where the neck joint of your model would normally be. For example, if you look at Lampy in the bottom right corner, you can see that the rotation would probably be more in the top center of the head in comparison to what a humanoid looking model would be. For a humanoid model, it would probably be, again, closer to where the neck is. If we move it to the top up here, it is going to be a little odd. As you can tell, doesn't really work all that well for a humanoid model. So, hold the control key or the equivalent on your device and drag it down to the bottom center till it hits the part where the head would meet the neck. Then when you rotate, it looks a lot better like that. Now, we're going to select our head Z deformer. That's the red circle over here. And before we do anything else, we make sure that we've got the proper parameter selected, which is the dials. We got to make sure our proper dial is selected. So click on angle Z. After you do that, we want to select the three little red dots for this one. We rotate it to the right. Let's move it to a 30-degree angle of some sort. If you're trying to get an exact 30-degree angle and you can't seem to get it, you can always go to the inspector tab up here, this little tab. You'll see a bunch of things. You'll see name, ID, part, deformer, angle. That's the one you want. And for this case, we're going to put 30. And there you go. So now we have the left and right for angle Z. So next what we're going to work on is the X and Y parameters for the head. We already have X and Y for now, but now we need to group everything within those parts. We need to group parts for the hair, the face, the base of the head itself, all of that stuff. You'll see why as we go along. So for right now, let's select the hair. We're also going to put the headband and the pendant along with the hair. And we're going to name that one hair front. We're going to put create on that. We're going to select all the parts that are within that one. And we're going to put hair front Y. So it'll be easier for us to work on the parameters and stuff, the little dials. Explain that one when we get to that point. Let's call this one hair front Y. So now we got the hair. Just pick all the parts that'll go to the face, which is a little creepy when you look at those meshes right there. That's not important. We're going to click on this fishing net again. Then the deformer will pop up and we're going to call this one face. Put create on that. Select everything underneath again. And we're going to call that face Y. We got the face, we got the hair. Now we're just going to select the head. We're going to call that one head base. Because head base is what we're going to use to shape the head angles. When it moves left to right, we're going to use that to, get the cheekbones and all of that. Now for that section, let's go back to the hair because we're going to need to select certain things from the hair selection. For example, we need to select the smaller parts. We're going to make a deformer for the pendant. We're going to make a green box, put create. Then we're going to take the hair bangs, specifically the hair bang in the shadow. We're going to make another green box for that. We're going to call this one hair bang left and put create on that one. Then we go to the other one and call it hair bang right. All right, so next part we need to work on is the face. We need to start selecting individual parts for this, which is just select everything for the eyes for now. make a deformer for that. We're going to call it eyes. That'll be like the X deformer. And then we need to select one side. Select everything from the teardrop there. Okay, this is where it's going to seem a little odd, a little unusual. Because as you could tell, we have selected the left side of the eye. However, you would probably think, okay, if that's the left side of the eye, this deformer, the green box, is probably going to be called eye left or left eye or something like that. And that's where things get a little confusing, because this one is actually going to be called right eye. Now, why did I put that? Well, it's because what Live2D does is a mirrored effect. The parameters that you set up, the dials down here, those are based off of the model side, their right side. So we got to call this eye right, even though it's on the left side from your perspective. So we're going to put create. So we got that. Now let's select their left side. Always remember that part. You're basing the model based off of their sides. When it comes to the face anyway. Everything else does not matter. It's mostly the face when it comes to the left and rights, if that makes any sense. If it doesn't, don't worry. It's just as confusing to me at first too. Let's go back up here to the fishing net, click on that, and we're going to call this left eye and create. Now that we got all of those parts, we got to select the entire mouth and call this mouth. And probably we're going to need a mouth Y on this as well. So let's select that, mouth Y. All right, we're just going to call this blush. What we just need to do next is do the actual rigging, which is setting up the X and Y parameters, and see where it goes from there. We need to go to our deformer tab, select head X, the green box there, and then we need to go to our parameter tab over here, and then select angle X. Click those two. And then, now that we got those two selected, we're going to need to go to this little box over here with the 3 green dots and click on that. Now we got our green dots. Of course, nothing's going to happen yet, just as before. What we need to do is move these things individually. So we're going to move that red circle all the way to the right side. And that is when we could get started on a couple things here, like moving it just ever so slightly. Let's select one half of that box. And the reason why we selected half of that box is because we're going to do something that gives it a little sense of perspective, which is shorten one half of it. Shorten it just a little bit. We're just going to squish the right side a little bit. Maybe too much squish. We'll add some other extra flair to this later, but for right now, that should be good for that moment. This is far from done, and it also looks a little janky, but do not worry. Also, I wanted to show you this one as before. We're going to do that reflect, because trying to get this exact same replication, but on the other end, is going to be a little more difficult. So, what we need to do is just go to reflect motion, but okay, we go to the box that says head Y, we go down here that says angle Y, and then we put 3 green dots. Because we don't want to make that mistake where we accidentally, leave it up here. Even if, let's say, we did make that mistake and we accidentally put the 3 green dots up here, well, all you got to do is just go to this box that shows a red slash, just click on that, and boom, those dots are gone. And then we're all set. We're all good. Also, for this situation, we're going to put a little bit of perspective. So we're going to take this center part and just drag the center part up. Not the entire box, just the center part up. And how do we do that? Well, I'll show you one thing, because this definitely complicates things a lot of the time. When you decide to select this part, you try to drag it up, but it doesn't work because instead of just moving the center part, it moves the whole thing. How do you get rid of that problem? You'll see the red box around it. You'll see a little red X right here. Click on that little red X. The red box is gone, therefore there's no more moving it around. For now, anyway. It's not a permanent thing, it's just for this temporary moment. So you can select a certain part and just drag those parts up like so. Since the hair is pretty long, we're actually going to go back to our inspector tab. And we're going to go to the division number. That's where all these little green spots are. We're going to fix those green spots. We're going to make more of them to make it easier for ourselves. Specifically up here. This should be good. I want to have one where it's dead in the center of the head. That's where we're going to leave that one there. I'm just going to bring this back down to at least 3, because we don't need that many on the other side, just for this part. So now that we got that set up, I'm going to move this to the side. We're just going to take the centerpiece, just drag that up a bit. Also, as you can see, there's a bit of a sharp end here.
Brother,
Let's say you don't want that sharp end for your deform. There's a way you can fix that too. All you got to do is, again, back to the inspector. You'll see something that says edit type. And Right now, it says retain control of structure. This is what's keeping it at a sharp edge. It basically means wherever you're moving that's the only part that's going to move. Everything else around it is going to stay where it is. But if you put smooth, that will allow it to give it a smoother shape, like so. That's exactly what we're trying to aim for here. We could just move this up just a little bit higher, not too much. So we're just going to drag this up from the center just a little bit. We can also pull the corners here a little more, give it more of that angle, like more of that angled perspective of, you know, the head aiming upwards and all of that stuff. You could also do the same thing with the hair or with the bottom parts of the head, because again, there is a bit of a perspective. So what you can also do is just move these parts out just a little bit more, not by too much, to show that, you know, the head angle is changing up a little bit. So to be fair, since these parts are a little bit closer to the torso, we're not going to really need to do all of that much. So, this is what we got for now. We move it back to the center, and it's as if nothing ever happened. So it gives a slight angle. Let's say you wanted to add more, do not worry. We could put that for the face parameter and all that stuff. Now, this is one of those rare occasions where you can't just reflect it and hope for the best. It's not going to work like that. Take this centerpiece, pull this part down just a bit, not by too much. And since that part moved down a little bit, we can also pull this part just a little. Okay, so for this part, it's mostly just about what sort of perspective are you aiming for? What sort of perspective are you trying to get? That's the main thing you got to figure out. So we're going to leave that right there. So we got up, we got down. All right, so I also want to show you something. The reason why we have a deformer, a green box for angle X and angle Y, I'll show you why making a separate deformer for each of them makes things a little bit easier for yourself. We'll bring that back later. So let's say we have angle X and we have angle Y. They're both on the same thing. We have left, we have right. We're going to make a mock up and down for now. It's going to look very bugged. It's going to look very scut, but that's okay. We have up and down on one deformer. We also have left and right on that same deformer. Now what happens if we move it to the right and we move it up? You'll probably get a weird angle, right? Actually, no. Nothing changes. Now, why is that? Okay, so if we put up and then we move it to the right, maybe, nope, nothing changes. Now, why is that? It's because, though it looks like they both have their respective angles, if you link these two together, you'll realize that we actually have some secret angles that aren't being shown right now. So, let's link angle X and angle Y together. Click on that, and you'll see we don't just have 6 angles, 3 for X and 3 for Y. No, we actually have a total of 9. We have the center part for both of them respectively being default, and you have up, you have down, you have left, you have right, but we also have the corners. And the corners haven't been registered. Therefore, nothing is going to happen with those corners unless we did that individually. However, let's say if we go back to the original game plan, you will see that if we separate that with angle X and angle Y, those two will not conflict because they don't have those extra corners. They have their own separate 3. That is it. They are not connected to one another. Therefore, they won't have those angles. That's why you don't see a solid box right here. You only have the green lines that go up and down, up and down. And that's for angle X. If you go to angle Y, you'll see that angle Y only has horizontal lines. They do not have vertical. And X has vice versa, which means they will not conflict when you aim for said corner, because Y is working on its own, and so is X. Consider it like parallel tracks. They're on their own tracks. They never collide. They never conflict. So if you want to make it a little bit easier for yourself, you could put X and Y parameters on that sort of stuff. However, it doesn't mean that you can't do it the previous way. It doesn't mean that you can't give them Y dials and X dials as well. Sometimes you want to do that for certain parts. For example, it's a little wonky. It's a little off. Let's say this part seems a little off. Me personally, I would like to take this corner, just pull this part down a little bit. But if I did that, you'll notice something. It messes up that angle whenever we put it back to default. And I don't want that. I kind of want it to stay somewhat like this, while still fixing the issue when it reaches that point. So how do we fix that problem? I'm going to show you. we're gonna add this box to the Y angle, despite the fact that it already has its own angle. And as I mentioned before, normally it would conflict. And sometimes you kind of want that. This is one of those rare occasions where you want that. We're gonna put it right there. What I wanna do, just pull this part down a little bit. Now, because this thing is connected to the X and the Y, it will not conflict with the Y box. The Y deformer will still do its thing. So when we move it back to the center, it'll be fine, it'll be safe. But when it moves to the corner, it'll adjust accordingly to that one corner without messing with the original structure. We move it back to the center, this hasn't changed any. We move it to the right, that hasn't changed any. We move it up, it changed accordingly to what we set up. That's the game plan. Now let's go back to angle X and do the exact same thing over here. But how we're going to do that is just basically reflect motion, select angle X. If you're trying to reflect it, unlink everything and you'll see both sides that are registered to that deformer in particular are on the right side. You still have to select one of them individually. And in this case, we need angle X. Select, put OK, and now we move to the right. And now that is selected for that angle. As we got all of that out of the way, let's start perfecting the face shape. So what we're going to want to do is start selecting those other parts individually. So we're going to go to face. We're going to go to our Y angle over here on the parameters, 3 dials, and put 3 green dots on that. Boom, we select that, then we move it up. And from that angle, you can see that it moved up a bit. So what we want to do is just drag this up a little bit more, remove that, take this corner, drag that up a little bit, maybe pull this up a little more, something along those lines. And basically, we just want this fishing net to aim at a certain angle, like so. That should be good. Take the center sides a bit and drag them down a little. We're gonna select the main parts, and we're gonna make a deformer. We're gonna call that head, face, Y. Create the green 3 dots on angle Y. Maybe just take this whole part and squish the chin up a little bit. Give that angle that, you know, they're looking up. When you look up, the pointed end of your chin loses that sense of perspective. Hence the perspective term called foreshortening. If you don't know what foreshortening is, Google. So we got that section all set up. I'm gonna go back to head angle X, because what I also want to do, take a little bit of this section, push this down just a little bit, just a little, not by too much. It gives that sense that the hair is moving backwards a little bit. Now, let's go back to the face, because if I'm correct, we weren't done with this yet, because we only have the top angle. We don't have anything for the bottom angle, so let's fix that. Drag it down a little more. Basically, just aim for those angles. Now we're going to take the 2 center parts and pull them up just a little bit, and that should be all set. There we go. Now, in comparison to where it originally was, the head angle looks a little bit better. Or at least the X and Y looks a little bit better. Let's go back to face. Let's just drag this part down a little bit, because it's aimed a little too high. Again, it's all based on that perspective thing. You just got to find the center part that you're looking for and just move that around a little bit. I'll probably fix it up a little more as we go along, but for right now, I think this should be good. That's only up and down. Now we got to work on the, left and right. Now what we need to do, we need to go to the X angle parameter, which is the dial right here. And we need to go to the eyes, the blush, the nose, and the mouth. We're going to move these left and right to better suit the angles that we're going for. So let's select all 4 of these parts, and let's go to angle X, put the 3 green dots, move it to the right, and let's go to the face deformers here and move them closer to the right, like so. Reflect that motion, move them individually to the other side. There we go, that should be good. So we have the left and right. It looks a lot better in comparison to where it was before. However, of course, there's still a few more things that we could do to fix this, make this look better than it already is. So let's go to these individual ones. For example, let's take this corner of the mouth. We're gonna do is just squish one side significantly more than the other and move a little bit further. And we can even change the angle a little bit, rotate it in the direction of where the head's supposed to go, move it just a little bit, rotate it ever so slightly, not by too much. Next, we're also going to go to the nose, move this one much further up in comparison to the rest of them, because again, nose angle and all of that. What we're going to do is take this angle, squish this a little bit more, actually squish this one a lot more to give us that, again, to give us that angle. We're going to take this section, pull this entire part forward a little bit, and even rotate it. Why not? Again, to give it the angle that it feels like, the nose is being pointed in a specific direction. You know what? We can pull this back a little bit more. I think we're just going to select this section again and just shrink this a little bit more. Nothing too technical anymore. It's just angles that we got to look for. Reflect the angle. If later down the road I don't like it, I'll just come back and readjust it. There we go. We got the reflected side on both sides of the nose, but we didn't do the same thing for the mouth. So let's go back to the mouth, reflect motion, and boom. Now we got the mouth and the nose set up. Now let's work on the eyes. We're also going to hide the hair for a minute because I want to see, the whole head shape first. By the way, what you're looking at here, we're going to adjust the head shape a little bit better than this. It may look okay at first, but trust me, when we adjust the head shape, it's going to look a whole lot better. So, first, what we need to do, going back to the eyes, we're going to select portions of the right side of the entire deformer box. This allows us to edit only half of it, and that's exactly what we need. So, we're going to take the right half by selecting it using this arrow box up here. That'll allow us to select just these little spots. We're going to shrink this halfway, and it's going to look a little cursed at for the moment. Let's leave it right there. And then, to select the whole thing again, we're going to go to the eye deformer one more time. Hold the shift key. Move it a little bit closer to the right side. Right here should be good. Maybe go back to the nose, adjust that again. Move it a little bit further up, and that should be good enough. Let's go back to the nose and eyes. Select them both. Select those three dots and go all the way down to reflect motion over here. And so when we move it to the left, it may not be perfect, but it's close enough. So if it does not come out exactly the same way as the previous side, just adjust it a little bit. Just move it a little bit further up. Now that we got that, select pupil X, select angle X on the parameter spot, and then we put the three dots. So now that it's moved in that direction, I'm going to take this pupil, move it back just a little bit. Now that we move it, so that'll give it that slight 3D cone effect, because it turns out the eye underneath all that goop is kind of like a funnel. Could be wrong, but that's what I last remember hearing about the eyes. Close enough. That should be good. We're not going to do any of those changes on the left side because that one is going to be replaced entirely anyway, so that part should be fine. This is the side that we need to focus on more than anything else. Okay, so now that we got that, the mouth, I think we can move it just a little bit further up. We're going to take the nose, mouth, and the eyes again. Hold the control key or the equivalent to that to select the certain deformers, the green boxes, that you want selected as you move everything around. We go back over here. Let's do the reflect again. Move it to the right. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, it seems okay. We got the right side done. Well, we got the right and the left for the face done. Now we need to work on the head. I'm sorry, you're going to have to deal with that bald face for a moment. You're going to have to deal with the avatar. Okay, we're going to go to the head part itself. Not any of the other boxes, just the individual head part itself. Then we go up here to the fishing net, the deformer, pick that, and then make the head shape. And then we put create. Now that we got that box, it should be a little easier. Get the deform brush tool, and then we just pull certain parts. Ah, there we go. Now we're getting much better. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of experimentation. I bumped this thing up like crazy. I bumped it up to 16 by 16 on both the number conversion and the Bezier division. So we're going to see how that turns out. This is working a whole lot better. We got what we were looking for. All right, so as you can see, We got both the left and the right all fixed up. What we did was we used our brush, give it a shape of, you know, left and right head angle using the deformer with 16 by 16 on both the Bezier division and the conversion division, which you can find in the inspector tab over there. Pulled in certain parts, bumped out certain parts, just shaped it to what looked best for us on this one. And, well, as you can tell, it's not quite perfect. We still have a couple of imperfections that we could not get out no matter what we tried when it came to the deformer box. So how do we fix that problem? Well, I got a solution for you. We're gonna need to use the mesh itself. So let's get started on that. Let's select that little arrow key. Okay, so now that we adjusted all of that, let's actually go to the hair shape again and just adjust that a little bit more. Hair front, I'm gonna put the 3 green dots, move it over to the right a little bit to reflect motion, move it to the other side. Yeah, there we go. However, the base of the head, now we need to work on that part a little bit more. We need to make something for the hair base and the hair band. So let's work on that one next. We're just gonna add a deformer for that. We're gonna call it hair base. At this point, it's just trial and error. What your depiction of what looks good might be different from what I think looks okay. So work with whatever you think is best. Always remember that. That should be good enough. Let's go back to head X. Because what I want to do is actually rotate this a little bit. Rotate it inward. If the head is looking left, it's going to probably be tilted a little bit downwards. Or it could be tilted upwards, depending on how you want to go about it. But for me, I'm going to have it tilted downwards, but we're also going to pull it back just. Now let's reflect the motion. But okay, move it to the right. Let's move on to the next step. Because what we need to do is get top right, top left, bottom right, bottom left angle. And now there we go. We got the head angle. We got up, down, left, right, top right, bottom left. We got the angles that we were looking for. So this is what I was trying to show. This is how you rig a head from start to finish with the angles from up and down and left and right and all of that good stuff. I hope this helped in some way, shape, or form.